The first book of Esdras. During the period of exile, 586 to 538 BCE, some put it into the 40s, and they say about 540 BCE is when what you could call Judaism started. A surprising amount of literary work was done, mainly by the priesthood, who, as already mentioned, absorbed, but at the same time formalized the prophetic spirit in their successful effort to keep alive the religious life of the community. With the return from captivity, but still in the ignominious position of a subject people, the Jews passed the next century in a discouraging, slow effort to revive their natural consciousness. Much assistance was rendered by the enthusiasm of Nehemiah in rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem in 444 BCE, and still more by the promulgation of the Code of Ezra in 397 BCE. I have a 444 number symbolism video, by the way. By the beginning of the 4th century, a genuine revival of national character and literature was underway. What was to be a great literary century opened with its weakest work, the arid books of the Chronicles, a hopelessly unhistorical rewriting of Jewish history from the standpoint of the priesthood. At the end of his account, the feeble chronicler was aided by the vigorous personal memoirs of Nehemiah and Ezra, which he wove into the narrative in the wrong order. The delightful, though probably quite mythical story of Zerubbabel, included in our text, is not found in the authorized version of Ezra, but is taken from the much expanded Greek books of Esdras, a part of the biblical Apocrypha, which developed among the Jews of Alexandria. And just because it's Greek doesn't mean it's less authoritative. Some of them are actually more authoritative in a historical or unedited sort of way than other parts of Tanakh, but it's not formally part of the 24 books. The return from captivity. In the first year of Cyrus, king of the Persians, that the word of God as noun and verb might be accomplished, that he had promised by the mouth of Yermi, God as noun and verb raised up the spirit of Cyrus, the king of the Persians, and he made proclamation through all his kingdom, and also by writing, saying, "Thus saith Cyrus," Koresh, king of the Persians, God as noun and verb of Yisrael, the Most High, God as noun and verb, hath made me king over the whole world, and commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem in Yehuda. If therefore there be any of you that are of his people, let God as noun and verb, even God as noun and verb, be with him, and let him go to Jerusalem as in Yehuda, and build the house of God as noun and verb of Yisrael, for he is God as noun and verb that dwelleth in Jerusalem. Now, he would have said Ramasta, instead tetragrammaton, but I'm not sure what wording they're using. Here it's a Greek text, so still no J's though, but so I'm going to go blend it with the rest of it, right? And then the chief of the families of Yehuda and the tribes of Benjamin stood up, and the priest, and also the Levim, and all they whose mind God is noun and verb to move to go up, and to build a house for God is noun and verb at Jerusalem, and they that dwelt round about them, and helped them in all things with silver and gold, with horses and cattle, and with very many free gifts of a great number whose minds were stirred up thereto. King Koresh also brought, he's also known as Karnan, and, the king of the two horns, and also brought forth the holy vessels which Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem, and had set up his temple of idols. Now, when Koresh, king of the Persians, had brought them forth and delivered them to the Mithridates, his treasurer, and by him they were delivered to Sennabazzar, the governor of Yehuda, and this was the number of them: 1,000 gold cups, and 1,000 of silver, censers of 29, vials of gold 30, and of silver 2,410, and 1,000 other vessels. So all the vessels of gold and silver which were carried away were 5,469. But in the time of Artaxerxes, king of the Persians, Belemus, and I thought that maybe was a plural. Mithridates and Tibelias and Rathamus and Beeltethmus and Semelius the secretary, and with others that were in commission with him, dwelling in Samaria and other places, wrote unto him against them that dwelt in Yehuda and Jerusalem these letters following: To King Artaxerxes, our Lord, thy servants, Rathabus, the story writer, and Semelius the scribe, and the rest of their council, and the judges that are in Caesarea and Venice. Be it known to the Lord the King that the Jews that are come up from you to us, being come into Jerusalem, that rebellious and wicked city, do build the marketplaces, and repair the walls of it, and do lay the foundations of the temple. Now, if this city and the walls there be made up again, they will not only refuse to give thee tribute, but also rebel against kings. Then the king wrote back again to Athamas, the story writer, to Beeltethmus, to Semelius, the scribe, and to the rest that were in commission, and dwellers in Samaria, and Syria, and Venice. After this manner, I have read the epistle which ye have sent to me. Therefore I command to make diligent search, and it hath been found that the city was from the beginning practicing against kings, and the men therein were given to rebellion and war, and that mighty kings and fierce were in Jerusalem, who reigned and exacted tributes in Caesarea and Venice. Now therefore I have commanded to hinder those men from the building the city, and heed to be taken that there be no more done in it, and those wicked workers proceed no further to the annoyance of the kings. Now, this really could be called the Second Temple period. At the latest, this is the real Second Temple period, not the. Then King Artaxerxes, his letters being read, Rathamus and Semelius the scribe, and the rest that were in commission with them, were moving in haste toward Jerusalem with a troop of horsemen, and a multitude of people in battle array began to hinder the builders, and the building of the temple in Jerusalem ceased until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, the king of the Persians. And so the Israelites, before the whole Judaism thing, they were they came to power twice and lost twice, and then as Jews they came to power twice and lost twice, and now we're finding the secular Judaism came to power once. So, did they come to power twice and be removed from power twice? Like the other two groups? Now when Darius reigned, he made a great feast unto all his subjects and unto all his household, and unto all the priests of Media and Persia, and to all the governors and captains and lieutenants that were under him from India to Ethiopia, unto Ethiopia, of 127 provinces. And when they had eaten and drunken and been satisfied, were gone home, then Darius the king went into his bedchamber, and slept, and soon after awaked. Then 3 young men that were of the guard, that kept the king's body, spoke to one another, Let every one of us speak a sentence, he that shall overcome, and whose sentences shall seem wiser than the others, unto him shall the king Darius give great gifts, and the great things in token of victory, as to be clothed in purple and to drink in gold, and to sleep upon gold, and a chariot with bridles of gold, and a headtire of fine linen, and a chain about his neck. And he shall sit next to Darius because of his wisdom, and shall be called Darius his cousin. And then every one wrote his sentence, sealed it, laid it under King Darius his pillow, and said that when the king is risen, some will give him the writings, and of whose side the king and the 3 princes of Persia shall judge that his sentence is the wisest, to him shall the victory be given. As was appointed, the first wrote, Wine is the strongest. The second wrote, The king is the strongest. The third wrote, Women are strongest, but above all things truth beareth away the victory. Now when the king was risen up, they took their writings and delivered them unto him. So he read them, and sending forth, he called all the princes of Persia and Media, and the governors, and the captains, and the lieutenants, and the chief officers, and set him down in the royal seat of judgment, and the writings were read before them. And he said, Call the young men, and they shall declare their own sentences. So they were called, and came in. And he said unto them, Declare unto us your mind concerning the writings. Then began the first, who had spoken the strength of wine, and he said thus, O ye men, how exceedingly strong is wine! It causeth all men to err that drinketh it. It maketh the mind of the king and of the fatherless child to be all one, of the bondman and of the freeman, and of the poor man and of the rich. It turneth also every thought into jollity and mirth, so that a man remembereth neither sorrow nor debt. And it maketh every heart rich, so that a man remembereth neither king nor governor. And it maketh to speak all things by talents. And when they are in their cups, they forget their love, both the friends and brethren. And a little after draw out swords. But when they are from the wine, they remember not what they have done. O ye men, is not wine the strongest that enforceth to do thus? Then the second that is spoken with the strength of the king began to say, O ye men, do not men excel in strength, that bear rule over sea and land, and all things in them? But yet the king is more mighty, for he is Lord of all these things, and hath dominion over them. And whatsoever he commandeth them to do. If he bid them make war the one against another, they do it. If they send them out against the enemies, they go and break down the mountains, walls, and towers. They slay and are slain, and transgress not the king's commandment. If they get victory, they bring all to the king, as well as the spoil, as all things else. Likewise for those that are no soldiers, and have not to do with wars, but use husbandry, when they have reaped again that which they had sown, they bring it to the king, and compel one another to pay tribute unto the king. O ye men, how should not the king be mightiest, when in such sort he is obeyed? Now I would add, the king has the choice whether or not to use the wine, right? And compared to the other ones, if you could make that argument, well, he has the choice whether or not to use the truth. He has the choice, his response to the women. Then said the third, who had spoken of women and of truth, this was Zerubbabel. So what does Zorub mean, or is that a TZ? I'm not sure what that would be in Aramea, but he began to speak. O ye men, it is not the great king, nor the multitude of men, neither is it the wine that excelleth. Who is it that then ruleth them, or hath the lordship over them? Are they not women? Women have borne the king and all the people that bear rule by sea and land. Even of them came they, and they nourished them up that planted the vineyards, from whence the wine cometh. These also make garments for men. These bring glory unto men. Without women cannot men be. Yea, and if men have gathered together gold and silver, or any other goodly thing, do they not love a woman, which is comely in favor and beauty? And letting all those things go, do they not gape, and even with open mouth fix their eyes fast on her? Have not all men more desire unto her than unto silver or gold or any goodly thing whatsoever? A man leaveth his own father that brought him up, and his own country, and cleaveth unto his wife. He sticketh not to spend his life with his wife, and remembereth neither father nor mother nor country. But this also ye must know, that women have dominion over you. Do you not labor and toil, and give and bring all to the woman? Yea, a man taketh his sword, and goeth his way to rob and to steal, and to sail upon the sea and upon rivers, and looketh upon a lion, and goeth in the darkness, and when he hath stolen, spoiled, and robbed, he bringeth it to his love. Yea, many there be that have run out of their wits for women, and have become servants for their sakes. Many also have perished, have erred, have sinned for women. And now do you not believe me? Is not the king great in his power? Do not all regions fear to touch him? Yet did I see him and Apamah, the king's concubine, the daughter of the admiral Barticus, sitting at the right hand of the king, and taking the crown from the king's head and setting it upon her own head. She also struck the king with her left hand, and yet for all this the king gaped and gazed upon her with open mouth. If she laughed upon him, she laughed also. But if she took any displeasure at him, the king was faint to flatter, that she might be reconciled to him again. O ye men, how can it be but women should be strong, seeing they do thus? The king and the princes looked upon one another, so he began to speak of the truth. O ye men, are not women strong? Great is the earth, high is the heaven, swift is the sun in his course, for he compasseth the heavens round about, and fetcheth his course again to his own place in one day. Is he not great that maketh these things? Therefore great is the truth, and stronger than all things. All the earth calleth upon the truth, and the heaven blesseth it. All works shake and tremble at it, and with it is no unrighteous thing. Wine is wicked, the king is wicked, women are wicked, all the children of men are wicked, and such are all their wicked works, and there is no truth in them. In their unrighteousness also they shall perish. As for truth, it endureth, and it is always strong. It liveth and conquereth for evermore. With her there is no accepting of persons or rewards, but she doeth the things that are just, and refraineth from all unjust and wicked things, and all men do well like of her works. Neither in her judgment is any unrighteousness, and she is the strength, kingdom, and power, and majesty of all ages. Blessed be the God of truth. And with that he held his peace, and all the people that shouted and said, Great is the truth, and mighty above all things. Then said the king unto him, Ask what thou wilt, more than is appointed in the writing, and we will give it thee, because thou art found wisest. And thou shalt sit next me, and shalt be called my cousin. Then said he unto the king, Remember thy vow which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou camest to thy kingdom, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Koresh set apart, when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple which the Edomim burned, when Yehuda was made desolate by the Chaldees. Chaldees kind of Keshti or something like that, because they performed the Kushti rite. Keshtim. And now, O Lord the King, that is which I require, and which I desire of thee, and this is princely liberality proceeding from thyself. I desire, therefore, that thou make good the vow, the performance whereof with thine own mouth thou hast vowed to the King of heaven. Then Dareivash the king stood up and kissed him, and wrote letters for him unto all the treasurers and lieutenants and captains and governors, that they should safely convey on their way both him and all those that go up with him to build Jerusalem. Now when this young man was gone forth, he lifted up his face to heaven toward Jerusalem, and praised the King of heaven, and said, From thee cometh victory, from thee cometh wisdom, and thine is the glory, and I am the servant. Blessed art thou, who hast given me wisdom, for to thee I give thanks. O God is a noun and verb of our fathers. And so he took the letters and went out and came unto Babylon, and told it all his brethren, and they praised the God of their fathers, because he had given them freedom and liberty to go up and to build Jerusalem and the temple, which is called by his name. And they feasted with instruments and music and gladness 7 days. And as far as its message, it makes a lot more sense than including the Book of Esther. But, I do understand that there is a separation between, and it contains an air of sort of prophetic authority, you could say, that the Book of Esther does not have even really attached to it. But some of the reasons why the Book of Esther was included, aside from the fact that it was in Aramea, you find some of that here. But it's, more principally based, I would say.